Thank you. I don't. Oh, wait a minute, Javon. Wait. Uh, well, I wanted to ask him how to get that off of there. But anyway, I don't know how. I don't want to mess it up. So we're just going to leave it there. Well, this is who I am, Psychic Frank's Mystery School. I'm Psychic Frank, your host. And yeah, they're out there. Well, I'll just have to work through this, but there's worse things that can go on. Okay, so great. I have an hour, and there's so much I want to talk to you about. I'm a psychic healer who uses astrology and numerology and and the tarot cards, and boy, there's so much going on. What we're going to start off with is uh, have it right here. Bear with me for a second. Uh, oh yeah, that's the United States of America. We want to get on chart here. Okay, so the United States, anybody's day and month reduced to one digit, 11, 22, 33, 44. You want to keep them elevated. But but for the sake of math, we're doing like two. For the United States of America, the day and month, 4th of July is 11. So 2025 is 9. It's a completion year. A few months back, I did a show on 9. It's a humanitarian year, and we are doing everything we shouldn't do, what's advised not to do. And it's so there's a reason for that. We'll get into that another time. But the big astrological thing that upstages everything. Well, there's two. Jupiter is freshly into Cancer, the motherly, cuddly Cancer, and it's going to be there for a year. And Jupiter takes 12 years to go around the wheel. But Uranus's entry into Gemini. Yeah, this is a big thing. I thought I'd start off with, before we get into all the astrological stuff going on, I was looking at Gavin Newsom's chart, Governor Gavin, and he's really morphed into this, like, definitely, who knew? Where was this guy? Well, I'm not gonna, what we got now makes me think about, wow, I didn't realize how good we had it with London Breed compared to this guy now. Boy, this mayor is, Lori is out of control. But as far as government, we're not even going to talk about him in this, a little bit. I'm going to talk about this book in a minute. But yeah, he was born on June 14th, a very auspicious day. And actually, yeah, as I said, he's a his sun sign is what's going on with all this. I'm looking at something earlier. Oh yeah, all this Uranus energy now is switching into Gemini. I saw this before I left the house. Okay, is all happening in his ninth house of growth. Hmm. No, but what got my attention before was his seventh house, Saturn in Aries, because Aries now is in his health house. But, oh yeah. So all this North Node, South Node stuff is going on. Yeah, it's all about Gavin's soul. The North Nodes and South Nodes are about your soul. So that's what's going on with Gavin. But we won't any waste any time talking about him today. There's a book out called SNAFU, SNAFU by Ed Helms. He's been around as a comedian, writer, and it's and I saw him on a few shows, and I had a few dollars, so I went out and treated myself to a copy because I ordered it from the library. They have a service where they'll find these books for you. But there were so many hundreds of people, 100 people ahead of me. So, and I need to read things that are not, that I think are not related to what I'm doing, but everything's related to what I'm doing. You can't separate astrology or anything else from uh, our life. This is it. But anyway, snafu. Let me just tell you, because it applies what's going on in San Francisco too. and it starts off in the introduction. Yeah, most of these books I'm getting are all about the introduction. SNAFU, SNAFU, is an acronym for that stands for quote unquote situation normal semicolon. I mean colon all effed up, end of colon. Situation normal all effed up. I'm not going to say the F word. It was a military slang during World War II, and the soldiers. It really sounds better if you say it. Like you could just say it right now while you're watching me. Say the word "effed up." Situation normal, all effed up, and realize when you say that, the exact guys that were on PT 109 and were there when Pearl Harbor got, they were saying stuff like that. They said. The soldiers of World War II were coined to essentially saying, yeah, everything's a disaster, but hey, isn't it always? Over time, the term traveled beyond the battlefield and made its way into our everyday language. Today, according to Oxford Dictionary, snafu means a confused or chaotic state, a mess, a definition that frankly could apply to everything from assembling IKEA furniture to your last family vacation. But the snafus in this book are not your run-of-the-mill snap-ups. And they're all about, like, from the 50s on, like, really, like, wow, we were that close to, like, it's hard to believe what the human mind can come up with. And before we get to that, there's this book called Hope Dies Last. Just came out, and whoa, we're going to get to that in a second. But what this guy says in the first page, there's a saying by F. Scott Fitzgerald. One should, for example, be able to see that things are hopeless and yet be determined to make them otherwise. F. Scott Fitzgerald said that. But this is the one I like by Silvio Rodriguez. It's in Spanish and then underlined in English. I prefer to speak of impossible things because we all know too well what's possible. Well, it gets back to snafu now. So getting back, goes from the 50s, 60s, 70s right up, but I put a bookmark in here for it says A119 colon, to shoot the moon, literally, exclamation point. At that time, when the United States tried to detonate a nuke on the moon. Let that register in your head. It was in the 1950s. It goes on. I underlined the important parts here, but no, I did. But just in general, he says when the Soviet Union satellite Sputnik was launched on the back of the ballistic missile October 4th, 1957, it scared a crap out of Americans. I meant by that point in China, yeah, it goes on and on and on. So they wanted to detonate. Oh yeah, it's this race went on between. That's when the space race started, because it was all about dominate the world from space. I guess To this day, NASA is to conquer space. Has to. It's like an elephant saying, "I'm going to conquer that microscopic bacteria." That's what we are, in this vast universe. We're like, but we're all interconnected. That's what it's all about now. But then it goes on. On second thought, let's not blow it up. Finally, of course, there was no official statement from the United States regarding A-19. But finally, this guy stepped forward to address the situation, confirming that. Carl Sagan, this provided information that. He totally hated psychics, man. It's a mess. But they said they wanted, because they said it could miss the moon, go around, and they hit us, and then detonate an A bomb on us. But they literally want, and it's just full of them. It's called SNAFU by Ed Helms. He's been around, and I don't understand these people who say, "Oh, I read that last night." I go, "What?" I how could you possibly just, I can't conceive of anybody comprehending and reading. And I don't know, I guess if it's garbage, there's a book on astrology that just came out and it's real thick, but every page is written big. And I pretty got the gist of it in a day. It was funny. I didn't bring it because I was loaded up with all these other books. But, so there was something else I want to talk about. Oh, yeah. So, uh, what this guy's talking about in Hope Dies Last, and he goes on about where we are now. Larry Dossey's going to get that for us in a second here, but it just says this Indian saying says it all. It says only when the last tree has died, and the last river has been poisoned, and the last fish been caught, will we realize that we cannot eat money. 19th century Cree, Cree. Yeah, there's a shop on Haight just before Masonic, Upper Haight Street there, and I buy these cards at. It's a really nice guy. It's called Anarchy Bookshop. We all too often have socialism for the rich, but rugged free market capitalism for the poor. Well, it's even a lot of worse. And then, of course, this one by Terence McKenna. If the words life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness don't include the right to experiment with your own consciousness, then the Declaration of Independence isn't worth the hemp it was written on. Well, I looked it up, and the original Declaration of Independence is totally on parchment. But there's like a whole stack of rough drafts, but all on parchment there. So what we got going on now is, 1 second here. Oh, 1 second. I have it just so we can. Yeah, Thomas Jefferson said, when the people fear the government, there is tyranny. When the government fears the people, there is liberty. A government accountable to the citizens is the foundation of freedom. Martial law is the replacement of civilian government by military rule and the suspension of civilian legal processes for military powers. It can continue for a specific amount of time or indefinitely, and standard civil liberties may be suspended for as long as martial law continues. It's underway, Mister. I'm looking at myself. I talk to myself a lot, but that's another story. I think we all should. Alternatively, martial law may be declared in instances of military coup d'etats. That's what's going on. They warned us in Project 25, but nobody read it, of course. And yeah, they said it was all spelled out. Okay, so the big astrological, very hopeful, give us hope now before it all dies, is 1 second, please. uh, okay, so July for the United States of America is a 7 month. Wisdom comes through emotional pain. Deep emotional pain means deep, deep, profound wisdom. So for the whole month of this is United States, as I said, our day and month is 11. So this is an 11 personal year for us, full of revelations. And then July is 7. 7 and 2 is 9. So it's a completion year for us. And then 9 and 7 is 7. So July is in this complete, as I said, this, let me see, it's it's an 11 year. Oh, it's a completion month for us. It's a 9 month for us. So it's a month of completion. Yeah, so that excuse me there. I got it. So yeah, our seven was a couple of months ago. What is it? 7, 8, 9, 10. 3 months ago was the worst month of the year. What's going on now? I guess is a lot of completion. How so Uranus? See, the planet symbol for Uranus is the upside down lollipop in the middle of the H, and it's giving birth through the hips of something new. Uranus will lodge, and it takes like 80 something years to go around the wheel. It has a really, like Neptune, a really, and Pluto has like a 500 something year orbit. Uranus will lodge in Gemini for only a few months, from July 7th until November 7th, when it ends 29 degrees and goes from Gemini, 0 Gemini to 29 Taurus. But then in April 26, um, that's going to be a 1 year for the planet. U 2026 is one. So this is a universal 9 year for the planet, and we by the spring, the beginning of the astrological year, or actually technically by the year when the ball drops on New Year's Day 2026, that's our 1 year, universal 1 year, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Read them and smile. Yeah. So, and right now though, we want to make that topsoil really ready for all the seeds coming in now. So, yeah, this is we've got a. It's intense. I'll put it that. Couldn't be more intense. But this is just a tease, as I said. Well, we get this little few months of Uranus and Gemini. This is like good for every sign, but especially air signs, Libra, which is permanently Switzerland. Neutrally, permanently Switzerland, neutral forever. But not a bad thing, I guess. A bit of a yawn for someone like me, but that's another story. Too much Bill Clinton there for I guess Libra. I'm not Libra bashing, but they got to be good for something. But this is just a teaser of a much longer transit that will last until May 2033. So from April of 2026 of 2026 through until May 2023. So all Geminis, from early Geminis, late Geminis, middle Geminis now. Uh, Uranus will, your true self will come out. Any blockages to that, like my hippie self, I used to tie my hair back. I wanted to fit in. That's never gonna fit in. It's funny now, but it wasn't funny when I was living through it. Everybody wants to. I see all these on Channel 9 PBS, and I hope it stays around for a while. During the Black Month, they were talking about how during all these hard times, slavery and post the early, it never really ended. It only includes white people now, but I could see how they were talking about the black people really congregated to the church and singing in the choir. And as soon as they walked in those doors, they were talking. The guy who was doing the documentary said, as soon as my parents or wherever we walked in my grandparents walked in that church, they were home. They saw their own kind there. They felt that way. And I just had to. I hope you don't take it like I'm trivializing your plight, but being gay in the 50s and early 60s. I remember the first. I was like 16. I had false ID and I looked like I was 12. But somehow I got into this gay bar on Long Island. It was in Oyster Bay. That's where my grandparents lived, and my older gay friends knew the owner or something, and I got in there. And anyway, I got in this gay bar, and it was like, wow. I just looked around, and I felt that like there's other people. Just you can unite. You can just that connection. There's no words for it. It's like being in a tailor shop where nothing fits. So I wasn't trying to trivialize anybody here, but I'm just saying that feeling of when you walk. So that since then, that's the worst thing about when I sobered up in '82. I couldn't be around bars anymore. They were boring, and I didn't need to bond anymore. The world is a ghetto. But, but I did miss that, I tried once or twice going into a bar and ordering a seltzer water or something. And, I'd rather be home with my dog or my bird, whatever pet I currently have at that time. So, as I said, but a lot of gay people now, what are these bars are all upscale? I don't understand it. I just don't look gay, Life's a mystery, huh? So Uranus is the planet of shock, surprises, upheavals, and revolutionary change. As a slower moving planet that takes approximately 84 years to travel through the zodiac, of course, you can't say the last time Uranus was on my sun. So all you Geminis are all in for it. It's going to be a couple of years before Uranus hits Donald Trump's sun. And, oh, God. God help us. Just the thought of him being, you know, never mind 3 more years, 3 more minutes. Okay, so it says the only planet that spins on its side as it orbits the sun. Uranus helps us perceive old problems from the fresh angles. A lot of times when I was seeing people, I guess I'm in retirement now, but people, young people especially, would come see me, and then they'd pour their heart outs to me, and when I explain to them after I give them, I don't put up with that for too long, but eventually, like after 2 minutes, like, okay, come on, let's hold it on the waterworks here, and to lighten things up, I'll go, look at it this way, like, look at it this way, and gets a chuckle out of them. But anyway, that was long before I know. But Uranus spins on its, so perceive. It helps us to perceive problems from fresh angles. Uranus is more concerned with bravery, leaping forward into the future, clinging to the past. It doesn't like then rather jumping into the future than clinging to the past. It highlights what's ready for a reset in our lives. Sometimes a rebel rouser. It's crucial to recognize when a rebellion is grounded in careful, considered causes, or when it's just not just a bratty tantrum, which we're in a millionaire's bratty tantrum. I was it wasn't a hospital, it's where you go in between hospitals when they put a tag on you saying you've only got a year left to live. And a friend of mine has a swollen her liver. She quit smoking around the same, drinking rather, about the same time I did. So we've been sober about 40 years. Well over 40, Anyway, we were friends for over 35 years. We met like years after we sobered up, and with those guys who smoke cannabis. But, I worked the steps, and I realized character defects. Thank God I had old sponsors, say old time sobriety, and they would tell me, I would tell them I'm going to smoke cannabis a lot, and they go, well, if you feel you can do it, because there's nothing written in any of the big books or anything about cannabis. It's just people's own shadow they want to. But I always knew eventually I would smoke cannabis again. The theory was you wouldn't be able to drink, and then if one day you ran out of cannabis, oh, I gotta have. Trust me, I've plenty of times without cannabis, and the last thing I ever thought about was going out and spending money on any kind of or anything having to do with alcohol, but it's just kind of funny that how of course they say in AA nobody graduate. Hey, I did. Yeah, I stayed in for a couple of years, 2 years actually, longer than I should have, because I was 13 stepped a lot because I was young and beautiful then. Anyway, so get ahead of the curve for this Gemini Uranus thing. If you've been yearning to free yourself from a limiting story, this is key now. If you've been yearning to free yourself from a limiting story or unhelpful thought pattern, Uranus in Gemini will remind you that it's never too late to flip the script. Wow, that's profound. It's never too late, and you're never too old to flip the script. Beliefs are just thoughts. You keep on thinking, and thoughts can be changed. It was just Terry Cole Whitaker used to say on Sunday mornings, oh God, 50 years ago, she used to say, I used to get up real early in the morning to see her. She was like around the time of Louise Hay, Unitarian Church, and she would say on TV, I'm a spiritual being. I can change my mind. I was like, you go, Terry Cole Whitaker there. And it says, start conversations, open with, this might sound wild, but it's like Purnell. It might sound crazy, but I mean, it's a happy, but this might sound wild, but what if we stop funding NASA? You know, this might sound crazy, but what if we refuse to let the 1% continue getting and let them pay their share? It might sound crazy, well, it might sound wild, but what if we stop settling for the crumbs they're tossing at us and making us? What if we realize, this might sound crazy, but what if we made movies about Ronald Reagan, instead of praising him as being the, World War II, whatever, a light bulb salesman for General Electric, because at the time they needed someone to get the middle class had never been higher, and they need someone to destroy the middle class. I have the numbers right here. Actually, I wrote it down, the exact numbers of from 1930 to 1980. The middle class started, getting big until finally it was at its highest, and that's when they got Reagan in. And then the numbers go from 1980 to now to like, wow. And then you realize, hey, this is not fake news. And yet even Biden would say trickle down doesn't work, but he would not mention Ronald Reagan. Say the word. Let's start tearing down everything with that son of a bitch's name on it. God forgive me, excuse me. But man, it's been how long now? 30 years. I know my friends back then in 1980 when guy took over that, and I said, this is a disaster. It's an experiment, Frank. Be open-minded. Okay, it's 30 years now. The results are in. It's like they've been studying cannabis now. Ronald Reagan, it was in with Nixon. He tore it up. He didn't want to hear the research that is harmless. Scientific research on the mind-body connection confirms the profound impact on our mental health and emotional states of our physical health, but also provides a solid foundation for holistic approaches to well-being that integrate both mental and physical health into the unified framework for overall health and healing. Well, nobody got that memo in any White House, because under Bill Clinton now, he applied direct-to-consumer pharmaceutical ads now. I know maybe a lot of you people are watching me on SF Commons, on your Xfinity, cable TV, and there's a thing where you could pay a few dollars more and block out all ads for people on. So for you, I'm going to remind you that these direct-to-consumer ads on people on air. I don't have computer. What is that? I have what is it called? Just airtime, free TV. You plug it in, you get the local TV there, but it's like you're watching a movie, and then all of a sudden you got this guy telling you about his dying daughter of cancer, and it was like, man, you broke the mood even before you could, so as I said, and the pharmaceutical ads are, oh my God, help me. They all have one thing in common. They want you to own it. There's no curing cancer. And it's always these actors, how do they sleep at night? They always go, I've got, and then fill in the blank. My schizophrenia, I dance around with diabetes as they're cutting off my toe at a toe, these stuff. It's ridiculous. It's not funny. It's just sad, And as I said, the throat chakra rules all the chakras, So it's better. So what we're going to do is. Once, for example, be able to see that things are hopeless and yet determined. Yeah, okay. So, and then over here it says on page 3 of, here it is, of this Uranus and Gemini thing. Oh yeah, so swelling is all about. I wrote it down on another piece of paper, but swelling is clogged thinking, stuck in thinking. And I realized today on the morning news they had close-up pictures of Donald Trump's ankles, and they're like swollen, saddled over the side of his shoes, and swelling of anything. So when it's clogged, being stuck in limited thinking, fearful, limited thinking. And I was working on my friend in the hospital, and she pointed to her swollen liver, and the doctor told her she's got a year and a half to live. And it's not how many times they told me that during my drinking and drunken years. I had to, well, it's another story how I had the spiritual experience that called me to stay back. And anyway, it was a long story. But anyway, whenever I have gotten it sober, being sober, I've gotten the same results. Even when I quit drinking, I've gotten the same results that, of course, Hep C it was a killer until just a few years ago, and it was only when that wonder drug that I think they had for a while, well, that's another story, got rid of that, and now my liver's perfect. I've seen a sonogram of it. The liver is a very forgiving organ. Wow, that's a true statement. And then the woman said to me, "There's no sign that your liver was in any danger." And yet I had seen it 7 years ago. The same woman who did the sonogram on my liver, and it was full of tumors, And I was like, it was not official cancer, but it was like pretty much. And that's when I rolled up my sleeves, and that's when I started doing milk thistle and working with other healers and really straining out my thinking. And it's a mind body, mind body, mind body. But doctors now, their hope is cruel. They learn that hope is a cruel thing. It says keep your antenna up. These are how you can question everything. you know, okay, this is to get ahead of the curve by refreshing your critical thinking skills. Remember that information overload is not the same as wisdom. Remember that information overload is not the same as wisdom, and slow down so you can filter all the intelligence zapping through the air and decide which insights are worth absorbing. Yeah, so Donald Trump's got swelling. He's got stuck thinking, and your feet and your legs represent your path. So he's so on the wrong path. And Uranus and Gemini teaches us that paying attention. This is an important little line. Paying attention can be a truly radical act. Tips, tricks for making the most of this electrifying, Uranus is associated with electricity, transit. Embrace a spirit of experiment and research. And it's just your body, experiment with it. Jump into any abyss as long as it's harmless. Well, what's harmless these days? And Gemini in the is associated with double dealing. That's the shadow of Gemini. Why you double dealing sidewinder? I've seen enough westerns as a kid. So media, sure, you're dedicating your time and energy. So sources and trust. Question your sources, where you're getting the information from. And that's important. And then it said, laugh at yourself. Be unapologetically. Laugh at yourself, be unapologetically cringe, enjoy the thrill of trying something different, even if you feel like you're making a fool of yourself when your life starts shifting rapidly. Sense of humor can help you make the most of this turbulence. And then don't entertain the idea you're too old or too lazy or too XYZ. I got talking about Donald Trump, and I bruised myself the other day only because I was too lazy to keep the bird food for my parrot. Under this shelf thing, I have a heavy plastic, thick plastic container, and all I had to do is go down, pull it out, lift it up, and pick up the bird food. But no, I just said, I'll just pull it out. And of course, it was heavy and it scratched my arm. And I was going to cover it up with some makeup. And I go, this is to remind myself to talk about laziness. Laziness is not a virtue. Up until I sobered up in '82, I remember I was on the beach of Lake Atalan, drinking beer, smoking weed, hanging out with one of the 10 families that own that government, and they had their own plane, a helicopter, and I was such a different person back then, and I had no money. I just was there for the party, and just uh, I was just a party favor, My life is a party favor, and I lost track there. I was in Guatemala. Oh yeah, so I decided to learn Spanish every afternoon. This woman was teaching me Spanish for an hour every afternoon. She had a camera shop in the middle of Panajachel on Lake Atalan in Guatemala. And one day the word lacioso came up and lazy. And I said, oh, that's me. And she put her head down and she goes, oh, don't say that about yourself. And it was, I could see it. What I said had hurt her so bad. She put her, literally cringed and put her, and she almost started crying. And I said, how would you be able to, how could you say such a horrible thing about yourself? And, after the class and, years later, after I sobered up and worked the steps, I realized laziness. And to this day, as I said, just this morning, 2 days ago, whatever, 3 days ago, I bruised myself just because I was too lazy. So I'm not as lazy. I don't think you ever get, it's just an effort. So many people, they get old and, there was one guy I know, God willing, he's still in pretty good health. Got one foot on the grave, the other on a banana peel. But he is, can hardly get around now. And it's hard for me to be, I can't be around him. It's so hard on my heart because he was that way when he was 30 and I was 20, he's 13 years my senior. And he, back then he had a job, but he hated it. All the guys that worked with him hated, he's late, he did what he had to do. And then, he was an alcoholic then, but then when you sober up, you get over that laziness, So I call that being on a dry drug. A lot of people quit drinking, but their character defects are still there. We're human becomings. We're not human beings. When we're human becomings, that human becoming is what Carl Jung calls super beings. We're in touch with our spirit. Oh God, we got to get to this. Okay, so enough of that Uranus stuff. This is an amazing book. It's called One Mind. I lost my copy and I had to get it through Link, and I can't take it off. But it's One Mind by Dr. Larry Dossey. My shows are uploaded onto my. They email a copy of and I upload it onto my YouTube channel, Psychic Frank's Mystery School. Oh, what's this guy? Okay, get that out of there. No, I don't know how that got on there. Oh, so that's good. I got that out of the way. So Psychic Frank's Mystery School. Well, it looks a lot better. See, now you can see the trees, the lovely trees. What do you want to do? Shoot the swans? Yeah, Dr. Love, Dr. Larry Dossey. Oh, I love this guy. And then I want to have 10 minutes to do the cards. They're all spread out for you all. Okay. Okay, so what he says here about this, in the very introduction now to the book One Mind, uh, no one valued the hard sciences more than researcher Lewis Thomas. And then he goes on and on about this Thomas guy. He goes, he sensed we were losing our way, and he was not afraid to say so. He believed that the limitations of our minds constitute a kind of planetary emergency. As he put it, we need to know more. We need to know that we cannot do this any longer by searching our minds, for there's not enough there to search. We need science more and better science, not for its technology, not for leisure, but not even for health or longevity, but for the hope of wisdom, which is our kind of culture must acquire for its survival. avoiding extinction. This is the threatening concept our society does not wish to face. Having scraped by the Cold War without a nuclear exchange, many thought smooth sailing lay ahead. But no, Ronald Reagan came along. Corporations could buy back their own stocks, uh, Citizens United was the dagger, but actually the real dagger came when Bush and Gore, yeah, when they threw Gore under the steamroller there. But now we know better. The problems we face are systemic and metastatic. It's like a cancer that's spread to everywhere. They may not be as dramatic as nuclear horror, but they are equally deadly. They involve the gradual degradation and deterioration of our world because of the way we choose to behave, abetting by an unremitting greed, a paralysis of will, the clouding of vision, and a willful ignorance toward the rigorous kind of science that Thomas cherished. As a people, we seem to be seriously impaired. It's as if we had suffered a culture-wide stroke that has damaged the higher centers that control our ability to reason and act in rational ways. Our current mayor now wants to build a taller skyscraper in California on landfill. Why don't you build it on Alcatraz? What is it like? We'll get back to this, but I was thinking earlier about Donald Trump a few months ago. Was After he got elected, he was talking about Donald Arnold Palmer, the famous golf champ, was notorious for everybody. Was all the men in the locker room were because he had such a large penis. Even through his tunnel, he said you could see the length. Yeah, he was a human tripod, I guess, But anyway, he's a size queen. Donald Trump is a size queen. He's a pussy picker and a size queen. How else can you say it? That's the language he uses, So you can F off, man. You're dirty. You're dirty, man. And now we got, what is he, the size queen, Mayor Lori. He wants bigger. The last thing we need now. Get back to cannabis. This goes into SNAFUs. Eventually, they'll include Mayor Lori in the book SNAFU now. Eventually, we'll get a right mayor, and we'll get somebody who's going to do cannabis harm reduction, harm reform there. Okay, but I want to get finish something else here. He talks about. I'm going to repeat the sentence, and then I want to get to the cards. As a people, we seem to be seriously impaired. It's as if we have suffered a culture-wide stroke that has damaged the higher centers that control our ability to reason and act in rational ways. What will see us through? There is increasingly talk that we must engineer our way out of the problem posed by global climate change, environmental destruction, pollution, poverty, hunger, overpopulation. These are all hippie values. Desertification, making deserts, water scarcity, species collapse. The day I arrived in Paris in 80, what was it, in the 80, I got to spend a month in Paris. The minute I arrived in Paris, I turned on the TV and the dodo birds went extinct. I'll never forget that day. Maybe, as Thomas implied, something beyond today's science is needed, the hope of wisdom. We know intellectually that we cannot secede from nature. This is hardly news. It has been the keystone message of environmental science for a century. Yet the colossal importance of this insight is broadly denied. It is clear that in addition to factual knowledge, we need something that can stir in our blood and connect us with something beyond our me-centered selves, that we need more skin in the game. That's why one mind is vital. If all individual minds are united via the one mind, we are all connected. As I was coming here, I was getting into a meditative state, and there was this little bumblebee, and it was on the yellow part of the bubble part where you cross the street, and it was not going to get stepped on. People were walking around, and I go, "Oh, is this will be dying. Well, I don't want to get in his way. Let him have that experience he incarnated for. I wasn't going to step on it. A lot of people would say, "Oh, I want to put that boy out of his misery." Oh, no, no. And I just wished him well. Angels be with that beautiful little critter there. But that was a part of me. Then I said to myself, what's wrong with you, Frank? Why do you do that? Why does seeing an insect in trouble bother you? And then it goes, because that's you, man. Everything, you're connected to everything. What did the Buddhist say to the Buddhist monk say to the hot dog vendor? Make me one with everything. I hope they were vegan hot dogs. We are nearly there. Hope of wisdom that Thomas Price is within our reach. Much better science, he called this, already exists. Just like goodness exists, we just in all of us now. There's goodness in goddamn Stephen Miller. Just call it up. It's in there. So that'll happen if he's in jail. Maybe he'll have time to. Then it goes on, and we'll talk more about that in another show. I'll be back here at the third. This was interesting. It says in chapter 23 of this book, it says the self, a chapter called the self, and it says, "Why are you unhappy?" Question mark. Because nearly everything that you say or do is for yourself. Self is parenthesized, and there isn't one. So, Chinese proverb, as I said, the Buddha taught 2,500 years ago that there is no substantial self to make war on. The self is an illusion, a confection of emotions, fears, desires, wants, and strivings, attachments that get in the way of personal growth and transformation. Discussions of consciousness confused with the I and the self. The identity of awareness and the I mean that we know we are being it. The I, you can't have it like be yourself, but live modestly. You successful doctors, how many homes do you need? you know. And okay, let's get to the cards because I don't want to rush through there. I had my chimes and I put them someplace where I wouldn't forget to put them in this bag, but oh, here they are. Yeah, I knew they put them in a bag. Yeah, here it is. Ah, someone gave me this years ago, full of weed. It has F off. I'm reading, and it's a woman with her face in a book. Yeah, I put the cards in there. Yeah, let's clear the energy here. Hail one mind. Okay, one mind, universal, blessed one mind. What do we need to know now? What do people who are watching my show now want to know? I got a table over here, so excuse my back. Okay, what we have, used to have in the Potrero Hill, they had an instrument that had, you could see the cards over there, but that was then. We don't even have phones here, if you noticed. Okay, the Four of Pentacles now. Everybody's got to be frugal. It's not a time to throw money around. There's a lot of power. For a lot of people, even if they're living on a fixed income, at least there's a lot of power in what they have now, but that's all going. PB. And well, we're just going to go on here now. Four is things are on pause. Things are on pause. It's not over yet. Yeah, and this is what's going on now. What's going on for us is the Ten of Wands. And I have a book here that precisely explains what that is. It's interesting because this is a book by Your Tarot Guide by Melanie Lee Holm. I have a whole shelf in my apartment full of tarot books. This is the most recent, and I believe she has a gift as a writer. And Minor Arcana now, and here we have the 10. A couple of things I disagree with her on here, but for the most part, she's been spot on about a lot of stuff that, for me, words are like I said, like Romy said, words are like being in a tailor shop where nothing fits. So he says, uh, 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 energy you have paid off. You had all the energy we have done is work is done. The energy you've put out is paid off, and you can wind down your efforts. It is common to experience a bit of grief. As I said, it's over. The end, the bearable burden is over now. We're looking at the end, and we're seeing now. Oh, that light at the tunnel wasn't a freight train. The experiment is over now. We're Ronald Reagan, mercy on your soul. What our foundation here is the Eight of Cups, those are emotions, and the Ten of Pentacles. I keep on hearing Donald Trump just saying he's been working around the clock. Well, so was Machine Gun Kelly. So was Al Capone. How could these people, Charlie Manson, all these horrible people that were, he's not, how could you, I'm getting like the four tops, who said, my father didn't know the meaning of work. He disrespected mama and treated us like dirt. People don't even know the meaning of work. If you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life. It used to be people love what they job. One job permitted you to buy a house, have a car every year. You could buy every 4 years. You could buy a new car. Kids could go to, And then Ronald Reagan came along, 1980. So I was like, I was born in 48. I'll be 77 in a couple of months. As I said, so and I fought it. Like Kathy Acker, my best friend, is dead now. Her book. Eat Your Mind. She hate. I'm not gonna. Every time I hear people say, hate, I don't want to hate anybody. I just don't want them around. I want us to learn, so we could just never get that anymore now. But nobody seems. What's with he? He was worse con than Don. He was a con just as bad as Don the con. So as I said, a lot of people with money, a lot of dollars with no sense. Where we're coming from now. Things are speeded up now. Oh yeah, it's instant karma is going to get you. It's going to get you right where you live. You better get a baby. Yeah, yeah. How do you sleep at night? Yeah, we're not children of God anymore. We are adults of God. Yeah, a lot of us have matured. I didn't even mention, but the Saturn Neptune conjunction is still happening, although Saturn's retrograde. It will back up into 29 Pisces, and so will Neptune. But Neptune, higher consciousness, those two, man, along with Uranus and Neptune, Pluto and Aquarius. I mean, there's some of these things that haven't happened for 12,000 years. So, as I said, paradigms are changing. It's going to be a hard rain's going to fall, as Bob Dylan said, for a lot of people who won't get with the program. Years ago in the mystery school, we're talking 30 something years ago, Noma Tringali looked at the class and she was doing a thing in a trance and she said, people are going to be dying in big numbers. And sure enough, that's going on. And then before then, they weren't happening like that. This was Friday, maybe we're talking 30, 40 years ago. But that's when she first said that. And sure, and now it's just uh, emotion is the chief source of all becoming conscious. There can be no transforming of darkness into light, apathy into movement without emotion. Gandhi said the difference between what we do and what we are capable of doing would suffice to solve most of the world's problems. And then shift our perception from the current dominant worldview that fills the spiritual vacuum and yet more material consumption neglects our responsibilities through the excuse of technology and widens the social cracks and wedges of selfish individualism. We're not individuals. We are. And when you accept enlightenment is just accepting your true self. When you realize your true self is an intricate, priceless part of the weaving interconnectedness that we have with everything, you realize you'll still be you. Like Sly Stone said, at the end, you'll still be you. Everything you were meant to do. Stand, you're a rigid growing tall. Yeah, that's a a beautiful song. That's line, "You'll still be you." You set out to do. Yeah, listen to that song. YouTube it up. Sly Slow, Sly and the Family Stone, Sand. Now people are afraid they're not going to be who they truly are. No, you'll be without all the garbage, without the luggage, without all the brainwashing and crap they fed you in high school that Mayor Laurie bought in a military school, and then he bonded with a wound with the governor. Bonding with a wound never works out. It always backfires. We're part of that backfire ball. Pam Gregory, the astrologer, says what's happening now is fateful. So I'm not going to, eat the menu instead of the meal. That's a real trap. Ponder that little phrase. We only got 5 minutes here. Let me finish the cards for you. The final outcome is victory. We will not be confined. Here we are doing a little dance. This man and woman are doing a little dance here. Their cups are in the air. She's throwing flowers around. So we started out with the four of pentacles, money, and but it's more. It's not about money now. If money would have helped, any money now is going right to the 1% now. And what's surrounded now? Look at this. That's power. Six of fire, 6 of wands. We're almost there. Okay. 6 of wands. Gather up all your magical tricks now. Okay, what's ahead for us now is we got to say no. Wow, these are powerful cards now. What's ahead of us is the work. As I said, martial law is in effect now. So until the end of January, February, by the end of 27th of February, 2026, and then it's a few months after that, there'll be some other big things going direct. But I think that's when we're finally going to see the relief. But until then, it's going to be a lot of strife. So do as little as you can except protest. And also take down your hoodwinks now. Put down your mental defenses and listen to your heart. Your brain will analyze paralysis now. Just follow your gut when it tells you. Your heart will tell you, do this, don't do that. I put this together because my heart, everybody's heart vibrates to the color green. And I found this. It's made at a laboratory. It's a synthetic emerald, and these are synthetic diamonds. It's a broken piece of jewelry, and people know I make jewelry and bead things for therapy, and they give me this stuff. And in the bag, I found this, but it didn't really fit anywhere except on this piece of thread. And then I put these 7 because I like 7. I think they're tourmaline, black tourmaline absorbs negative energy. And then my guys told me the chakras know their colors. This will help ground those colors. I thought that was good. Okay, so say no when you hear this crap. Don't be afraid to dance around wounds and say no, because use our days are numbered, man. We've got a total, we're going through. I believe we're going to get through it, but we got to like. Well, if we don't get it in this life, we'll just, there's another planet in this vast universe, and we'll pick up where we left off. But I'm here to learn as much as I can in this incarnation. The universe doesn't speak English, it speaks frequencies. Keep those good vibrations. Don't match that energy. On YouTube, so many people talk about, I hate this, I hate that. Hate is like drinking poison and watching the other person die. Don't match that energy. Neutralize it. The other day, a guy in Oregon sent me a message. His horrible roommate. He's moving away from his coming back, and they've been horribly together for 10 years. He said, I deflect all his energy. I said, no, then you just keep it going. It's like boomeranging it. You want to jump off that wheel of dharma, just karma, just do it. Use the word, I neutralize all negative energy coming from it was in the range of my chakras, which is like we go out for a while. Our energies, we have like 7 chakras, but then we have many chakras, minor chakras. There's too many to count. Okay, so bottom of the staff of life is again doing this dance now. This for the first time. This is the revolution John Lennon was singing about, man. Yeah, they're building concentration camps in America and in other fascist countries. I mean, what's it? Martial law. I have it written down. I read it earlier. Martial law is underway. We live in a very, very blue place now. But you know, but it's here. It's in Sacramento. It's in L.A. What we're marinating in is there's hope. Don't curse where we are now is the message I'm getting to share with you. Celebrate after all these decades and decades since effing Nixon. It's finally come to a head. Thank God I'm still here and in perfect health, man. And celebrate, get with people and like they're doing now. What Malcolm Nance said, instead of demonstrating, order pizzas for the guys for the National Guard when they were in L.A. Malcolm Nance said, let's celebrate this. I don't know. Yeah. So here's the living proof now. The Three of Cups and this purification going on now. There's more light than ever hit this planet with this CMEs, the solar coronal emissions coming off of the sun, are purifying. Yeah, they're helps. They disturb more sleep, laziness, but too lazy to realize no. Adjust to them because they're bringing eons of wisdoms from other planets. They just spotted a comet. Our hopes and fears are too afraid to be our own God. That's somehow that's going to be sacrilegious now. No, that's what God, the spirituality is about, to becoming a super being. One mind will always be one mind. He wants you to be your own one mind. Yeah, we're growing. Look, all the kids are here. We're no children now. We're adults. We're suffering from arrested development. The final outcome here is we got to tiptoe past everything now and work with our guides now. Don't be pulling this apple cart all by ourselves. Your throat chakra, see the angels and assisted from above, they angelic help, assistance to all ascended masters. They can't do anything for us unless we give them permission. It's all about free will. That's the hardest lesson in learning when I was a psychic, going through my training is, respecting free will, even though they're going to go, end up places I wouldn't want to be. So the foundation is, here's what the flyer is now. Live life to the nines this year and enjoy every moment. Don't put off anything. And the air is now, so much is right over our shoulder. Trust, hope is giving thanks for what's coming in. Everybody's grateful at a banquet. Let the angels, gift from miracles happen. I'm living proof of that. And what we're afraid of now is money. It's all about money. If I be myself, however, if I become sympathetic or what's good, just let things work out. Let go and let God, man. And here's the earth here. This love. Do what you love. This one we're going to read, and then we'll close with that, because the final outcome is they're walking away now. But let me close with this, because this is a beautiful card, and then we'll close for 2 weeks now. But the Queen of Cups. See, cups are an emotions, as I said earlier. Emotions are the whole key to enlightenment. And here it is. The Queen of Cups. Page of Cups. Knight of Cups. And the Queen of Cups. The Queen of Cups plunges you into a sea of emotion. There is no ability to separate yourself from your feelings or to control their flow through your body. You may have a hard time understanding where some of these feelings come from. That's okay. You don't need to understand. You simply need to allow. Water and emotions are powerful forces that can show themselves as docile creatures or destructive behemoths. Both manifestations are needed for a healthy heart. If you feel like a tidal wave is coming down on you, you need to cleanse energy of this card, the cleansing energy of this card. If you feel a lack of motivation, go with the flow, rest and float for a bit. The Queen of Cups appears in a work reading. It is either immerse yourself completely in the work you love or take it as a message that your work is not a big concern right now. Well, everybody's work is a big concern because it's all about get involved, because all this action in the United States of America is all happening um, with this Gemini action. Our Uranus in 1776 is 9 degrees Gemini. So it's going to be around 2-3 years before Uranus, and we'll start feeling it in 2 years. So, and that's right around the time I said, be the middle of spring to summer of 2026 to 2027. And that's when all the astrologers say, until then, keep your wits about you. Which animal you're going to feed, is the one that's going to survive. Okay, well, we're going to close this up for now. God, I got excited there. I got my juices running. I hope you got something helpful out of this. Pam Gregory is a great astrologer. Look at United Kingdom there. Okay, so he told me where to go here to shut this off. Let me move this. Okay. Thank you. Bless you for watching. Thank you. And I'll be back in 2 weeks.